This is RTV6 News at 5:30, working for you.
And now at 5:30, work is underway on a new type of COVID-19 test that could make a difference. Ahead, the Central Indiana company hoping to make testing and detection of the coronavirus more widely available.
Here's what we're talking about in our lineup. Hospitals are facing another challenge with ventilators. The issues biomedical professionals say they are facing to fix the equipment. And new technology could reduce some of the anxiety about flying right now. How this app is changing how the security process works. Also, voters say casting a ballot can seem more like a fight than a right. What voting rights groups say needs to change before the November election.
And now at 5:30, Indy is playing a key role as states to our west and south see an increase in COVID-19 cases. Our Rafael Sanchez goes inside the local lab supplying, shipping, and screening critical tests.
The demand is real. Tori Ledesma is among the dozens making thousands of COVID-19 test kits at ARIA Diagnostics. These jobs did not exist in March. The people in this room have gone from making 37,000 test kits a week in April to 150,000 a week in June. Tori is a Purdue University student with plans to major in pre-med.
As a person going into the pre-med field, I think it's cool to just get to see like that sort of process that's actually happening. Since as a student and like growing up, going to the doctor, I didn't get to like see that as much. So I think it's pretty cool to see it from a different side now.
The recent COVID-19 surges out west and in the south has meant test kits are now going to Houston, San Antonio, Waco and Dallas, Texas, Naples, Florida, and Phoenix, Arizona. Yogi Rao is a senior at Carmel High School, using this experience to help with his interest in the medical field.
I think it's good to even get as little as medical experience, even though it's not as hands-on as being in like, a lab or anything like that. I think it's still good to kind of see how the world works against some medical threat like a pandemic.
ARIA Diagnostics expects to expand its workforce as there is a need for more kits made in Indianapolis.
The demand's actually picked up quite a bit. We are producing anywhere from 125 to 175,000 kits each week.
I think we've seen Hoosiers here come together in a way that this state hasn't seen, especially at a time when people want to help. Everything is so negative, and people are getting sick, people are dying. I'm loving the opportunity to work with other Hoosiers to put this thing together and help not only Indiana people and our citizens, but the rest of the country as well.
Working for you, Rafael Sanchez, RTV6.
ARIA Diagnostics is providing test results for the Texas and Florida cities that use their kits. A lab in Phoenix is handling the results in Arizona. Kyle.
Another steamy 90-degree day here in central Indiana, and we've been watching those cumulonimbus clouds building this afternoon across the Hoosier State into some of those very heavy downpours. And Storm Team 6 radar for us this afternoon is showing that things are starting to quiet down a little bit south of I-70, at least for now. We're going to be keeping our eyes, though, on this band of thunderstorms coming together in eastern portions of Illinois. If that slides to the east, look at all of the lightning. Lightning and some heavy rainfall have been the main issues with these. We've had some rainfall rates in excess of an inch per hour, and you can see those thunderstorms stretching north across portions of Boone County, and then as we get into Tipton and northern Hamilton County, still those flood advisories until 9:15 around Kokomo, Tipton, and northern Carroll County. As we look across Indianapolis, we've got the cloudy skies. You can certainly see where the rain has fallen. 78 in Indy, but it is 91 in Muncie. We will look ahead to more rain chances and a break in the heat in just a few minutes.
There's new legal pushback on a policy saying international students may not be able to stay in the country if their colleges or universities only offer classes online. Harvard and MIT are suing the Department of Homeland Security and ICE, saying they stand behind their students.
We're hopeful to see it move forward and hopefully see an injunction issued by the judge as it advances. And so I think we will see more schools taking legal action.
That's Sarah Spreitzer with the American Council on Education. She also expects to see resistance from the business community. The U.S. has more than 1 million international students. Last year, they brought in over $41 billion to the U.S. economy overall.
That's not just money going to colleges and universities. That's money that they're spending on housing, transportation, entertainment, food.
She says the new policy came as a shock because the administration previously allowed students to choose if they'd like to stay or return to their home countries.
And so what we were expecting to see was some sort of extension of that guidance that we had in the spring. And I think institutions have been, working very thoughtfully to put together their plans for the fall. And so this really kind of upends everything.
The acting deputy secretary of DHS has defended the policy, saying those students don't have a reason to be here if they're not physically attending class. However, Spitzer suspects the motivation may be to put more pressure on institutions to open in the fall. President Trump continues to put pressure on schools to reopen this fall. Today, he threatened to withhold federal funding if schools don't do this. He's also calling the CDC's school guidelines very tough and expensive. The CDC director says his agency's guidelines are only recommendations, and he's urging schools to find ways to reopen while minimizing the spread of COVID-19. The CDC will be offering new guidance next week. The president of the National Education Association says educators want to be back in classrooms, but that it must be done in a way that keeps everyone safe. Mount Sinai Health System plans to test whether a new drug made from blood plasma of recovered coronavirus patients might help prevent new cases. The hospital system is partnering with drug maker Emergent Biosolutions. The study is expected to look at preventing infections in the military and doctors as well as nurses. Checking back in on the lineup, biomedical professionals are facing restrictions they say are impacting care. The challenges they say they're dealing with to fix the equipment hospitals need to diagnose and treat patients.
Pedic retailer in North America, Ashley Home Store.
After being closed for more than 100 days, the JW Marriott downtown is getting ready to open again, and tomorrow will be the first day they open their doors to the public since the pandemic, and they're taking extra steps to keep guests safe. In the rooms, you'll notice fewer decorative items and pillows, remotes, and other high-touch items are covered in plastic that will be replaced after each guest. Staff will be using an advanced cleaning and disinfecting procedures in both rooms and common areas. Meeting rooms in the lobby are set up so people can practice social distancing. And leaders there say hotels in Indianapolis rely heavily on groups and conventions, which may not pick up for a while, so they're focusing on smaller groups right now. Their message to travelers:
It's very safe. There's a lot of beautiful attractions to come down. If you have not been down to Indianapolis in a while, please come down, walk the canal, go to the museums, come take advantage of the city. There's still a lot of great things to do and see, and do it so safely.
The mayor recently announced $1 million marketing campaign aimed at bringing people back downtown. People who stay at hotels in the area will be able to get up to 50% off.
Some biomedical professionals are facing challenges fixing the medical equipment hospitals need to diagnose and treat COVID-19 patients. They say manufacturers are restricting access to equipment like ventilators. The U.S. Purges Education Fund surveyed more than 200 biomedical professionals to determine how widespread these repair restrictions are. Nearly half reported they had been denied access to critical repair information, parts, or service keys since March. One biomedical technician we talked with says when they had a ventilator fail at the small hospital in northwest Minnesota where he works, someone had to drive 3 hours to pick it up and go get it fixed.
It really only had a simple fix, but because we don't have the proper documentation to disassemble the unit and put it back together, we couldn't have fixed it.
He says different manufacturers have different restrictions on fixing equipment. And he says a lot of times it comes down to the cost of the equipment and determining if he has been given the manuals and tools he needs to fix it. Manufacturers say these restrictions are in place to ensure patient safety.
They'll look at us and they'll say, well, this is life support equipment, so you really have to have us work on it. But then they'll hand us a defibrillator, which is what they use to revive you if you go into asystole, and it's okay, you can work on that.
The U.S. Purges Education Fund is calling on manufacturers to publicly share all resources required to fix medical equipment in-house. They recommend if that doesn't happen, the FDA should step in to require this. Back to the lineup. Voters in some primaries this year have experienced long lines and problems with voter rolls.
We have a problem with voter oppression. Please do not close your eyes and think that it's not your state, not your problem.
What voting rights groups say needs to be done before November.
Apply online today.
Health and politics once again colliding. This time, the CDC is weighing in on voting. It recommends people look into alternatives to casting their ballot in person to avoid spreading coronavirus. The guidance also suggests for those wanting to go in person to show up during off-peak times. It also suggests people bring their own pens, wear a mask, and wash their hands before and after voting. And there's growing concern about voter suppression in the upcoming election. Alexa Liacco spoke with frustrated voters fighting to make sure their votes are counted.
Voter suppression is a real thing.
And it comes in many forms.
Long lines at the polls, voting machines not working.
For thousands of voters, casting a ballot can seem more like a fight than a right.
And it's something that we're becoming accustomed to, but I don't ever want us to get numb to it.
For Takaro Combs, her battle to vote in Georgia started when she checked her registration before Election Day.
An absentee ballot was processed out of that office on my behalf.
But she didn't cast that ballot. Combs spent hours emailing and calling the Secretary of State and County Elections Department.
And it's still unresolved today. I get pretty emotional when I talk about it. It's important to me, especially as an African-American woman. There have been so many sacrifices for me to have that right.
Come Election Day, when she made it to the polls, she was given a provisional ballot with no option to vote for president.
I went ahead and voted with the Democratic ballot that was not complete.
Problems continued at another precinct in the same county for Terrence Russian. It took him 7 hours and 45 minutes to vote.
I watched the entire season of Curb Your Enthusiasm, and I still hadn't made it to the front of the line.
These two say their stories are unfortunately all too common.
You are having to war for your voice, and it should not feel that way.
Georgia's policy requiring voter registrations to exactly match database information has led to mass voting registration purges. This years-long problem was added to by new voting machines in 2020. The Coalition for Good Governance, a nonprofit that analyzes elections, warned the state that a new system in an election year was reckless and could disproportionately impact minority voters.
We have a problem with systematic racism. We have a problem with voter oppression. Please do not close your eyes and think that it's not your state, not your problem. If we turn a blind eye here, your state could be next.
I'm Alexa Liacco.
To happen anywhere else.
A big development in the racing world. Fernando Alonso will once again join Formula One full-time. He has agreed to join a team in that series beginning in 2021. At least for now, this ends any hopes of Alonso joining IndyCar full-time. Fernando Alonso will attempt to run in the August 23rd Indianapolis 500. It is unclear what this F1 deal means for Alonso in terms of the future Indianapolis 500 races. And some good news out of NASCAR. Hendrick Motorsports confirms that Jimmy Johnson tested negative for COVID-19 twice this week. That means he has been cleared to return and will race Sunday at Kentucky. As you will recall, Johnson had to miss the Brickyard 400 this past Sunday due to a positive COVID-19 test last week. The news at 5:30 returns after this.
And we've got some clouds across central Indiana, many of those associated with some downpours. The good news is those are going to be fading away for us. And if you're an early riser, you got a good chance at seeing a comet here as we go through the next couple of mornings. It's Comet Neowise, which is actually visible by the naked eye. But if you've got some binoculars, that'll certainly help you out. You want to be looking, though, early in the morning between 4:30 and 5:30, low on the northeast horizon there. As we get into the afternoon, we're going to have additional thunderstorms, just like we have out there right now. And you can see, again, a few of those storms hanging out on the Illinois side of the line. And then we've got a few more thunderstorms here stretching from near Crawfordsville through northern portions of Boone County around Lebanon, also into northern Hamilton County with some heavy rainfall, frequent lightning. That's going to be the main issue here. Another downpour for you around the Anderson area. I think all of these will really begin to dissipate, though, as we go through the next couple of hours. By 9, 10 o'clock tonight, we should be fairly quiet here across central Indiana. And then on Thursday, we'll do it all over. Another day of 90-degree heat. We'll start off with some sunshine, and then that heating of the afternoon produces some additional thunderstorms for us. High temperatures, 91 for you in Danville and Muncie. We actually have a heat advisory across the eastern portion of the state because, again, tomorrow we could have those heat index values between 95 and 100 degrees. But after about 1 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow, that's where we'll have some of those thunderstorms once again firing up. And the 7-day planning forecast shows that more widespread rain in the forecast actually brings a break from the 90s. That will linger into the upcoming weekend. 30% chance for some storms on Sunday, but the heat comes back, and it comes back quickly. Highs are back in the 90s Tuesday and Wednesday.
Vaccine trials in people are underway, and in Baltimore, one particular participant thinks it's working. David Rock is an immunology graduate student. He got one of the first injections of a trial COVID-19 vaccine at the University of Maryland School of Medicine. Pfizer found early indications from the trial that the vaccine works, stimulating growth of antibodies in those vaccinated at rates equal to or higher than in those who have had the disease.
There's also a component of relief saying that it's actually producing results, that the vaccine is producing antibodies.
Rock can't know for sure if he got the actual vaccine or a saline solution since it's a double-blind trial. But he did say he had a slight reaction to his second dose. He's convinced he is one of the very few people in the world vaccinated against the coronavirus. And there's new concern that more people will fall into traps of borrowing money at extremely high interest rates, especially with the pandemic. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau just issued a final rule on what's known as payday loans. The rule does not require the lender to check if the person borrowing the money can actually afford to pay it back. This was something they used to do. Nationally, the average interest rate on a payday loan is about 400%. Some states have banned the loans altogether. One of the big names in the office clothing business filed for bankruptcy today. That tops our newsfeed. Brooks Brothers has been around for more than 200 years. The Wall Street Journal says it's one of the few brands to make clothes in the U.S. The company is looking for a buyer. And it's not great for the casual clothing company that makes Levi's either. The company plans to cut 15% of its workforce, but store employees won't be infected. Right now, sales are 80% of what they were a year ago. And Walgreens plans to open doctor's offices inside its stores over the next 5 years. It says it will be the first national chain to do this. The company says a recent small-scale trial run in Houston worked well. And one sector of the economy that skyrocketed as the pandemic hit is now seeing global shortages. Demand for bikes is nearing all-time highs. And if you're in the market for a new two-wheeler, Usher Qureshi shows how it may be months before you actually get one.
Bicycles seem to be everywhere. That is, unless you're trying to buy one. At Edgebrook Cycle and Sport, bikes have become a hot commodity during the pandemic.
It has been off the charts. It's unprecedented.
So much so that there's a critical shortage, not just here in Chicago, but everywhere.
We have about 10% of our usual inventory, and our service work, which you see kind of surrounding me here, is about 300% what it normally is.
In fact, bike racks at retail giants like Walmart, Target, and Dick's are almost completely bare. Online vendors like Torrance, California-based 630 say demand for their bikes has jumped 800%. They've had to triple their staff to handle the increased traffic. April sales for traditional bikes, indoor bikes, and other accessories grew by 75% compared to the same time last year and reached $1 billion for the first time in a single month. Industry experts say commuters abandoning public transportation, gym closures, and the search for socially distant recreation created a perfect storm. Today's bike boom, they say, is one not seen since the oil crisis of the early 1970s.
Mid to low price bicycles are just wiped out across the country.
Jay Townley is with Human Powered Solutions and spent much of his 60-year career at Schwinn and as president of Giant Bicycle Company.
Along with new bike sales, bicycle repair has skyrocketed. There's a lot of shops. If you call around the shops in your area, you'll find a lot of them are weeks out for repair.
Townley says the U.S. bicycle market is import dependent, with more than 90% coming from China. Punitive trade tariffs, supply chain disruptions, and lackluster 2019 sales caught manufacturers off guard, and forecasts didn't predict the increased demand accelerated by the pandemic.
Now we're in a phase where we're trying to get that pipeline to replenish those inventories, and that's going to be extremely difficult as we go forward.
It could be late fall before supply catches up to demand. In the meantime, buying used may be the best way to pedal forward. Reporting from Chicago, I'm Usher Qureshi.
One final check of the lineup. A new app is changing how the security process works to try to put us more at ease during the pandemic. The plans to make it available across the country.
WeatherTech.com, and stay safe.
Denver International Airport will soon be the first to test new safety technology. Glide uses biometrics to identify passengers at kiosks and e-gates. It also helps travelers schedule times to go through security or use transportation to terminals. That digital identity will also be used for passengers to show their health status using a badge on their cell phone. It may also translate to touchless payments at stores as well as restaurants. The airport hopes the tech will alleviate some anxiety about flying.
So what we're trying to do is allow people before they come to the airport, maybe for the first time or maybe for every time, to really begin to feel confident that they can control the time and space elements of their journey.
The COO says it's not just about the passengers. The same tech can also improve safety for the tens of thousands of staff and TSA officers that come and go each day. Denver International hopes to serve as a model for other airports.
For things to be successful in Denver, they have to work across the system. So once we build the solutions here in Denver, I believe that they will be transferable to airports across the country. And candidly, I think that these will work anywhere where people congregate.
The first pilot program is expected to begin sometime this summer. And it doesn't matter if you're in a big city or small town, some people choose to wear masks, others just won't. There might be an element of science as to why.
Groups that have a lot of collective threat in their histories, whether it's Mother Nature's fury, like think famines and disasters, or human-made threat, like invasions or pathogen outbreaks, they tend to be stricter and tighter. And the logic is that those rules help people to coordinate to survive.
Tomorrow, a cultural psychologist who studies how people react in difficult times explains what might encourage more people to wear masks.
If you're planning to do some barbecuing this evening, you might need to put that off a little while longer in Crawfordsville, Noblesville, and even around Anderson. We still have some of those downpours. I think over the next hour or so, those will start to kind of fade away for us. The 7-day forecast shows that heat is going to temporarily go away, but it is right back as we go into next week. Thanks for joining us at 5:30. The news at 6 starts now.